Madam Chair, it's 4 o'clock.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Sugarland 4B Corporation meeting on Wednesday, May 20th, 2020, Zoom meeting. Our first action is to call the meeting to order. And for purposes of this meeting, I'm going to do that with a roll call for our board of directors. If each director would indicate their attendance verbally. Ms. McCutcheon.
Present.
Mr. Kamali.
Present.
Mr. Atkinson.
Present.
Mr. Porter.
Here.
Mr. Gasanti.
Present.
Ms. Sewell.
Present.
Thank you. City Secretary, have we received any public comments for today's meeting?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. First action is approval of minutes for the consideration of an action on the minutes of March 3rd, March 3rd, 2020, Joint Sugarland Development Corporation and Sugarland 4B Corporation meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion,
Second.
Ms. McCutcheon, and the second was by
Kamali.
Mr. Kamali. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there those opposed? Motion has passed. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of an action on appointment of 2 directors to the fiscal year 2021 Budget Committee. Elizabeth Huff, Director of Economic Development.
Good afternoon, everyone. So every year, our fiscal year ends on September 30th, and as part of our annual budget process, the board historically has appointed 2 members to serve as a budget committee. And historically, this has been non-city council members, as the city council members are briefed separately through the city council budget process. The committee will meet with staff ahead of the budget workshop with the board for an in-depth review of the FY20 projections and proposed budget for FY21. This meeting typically occurs in mid to late June. And last year, our directors were Director Gasani and Director Saunders. And so looking for a recommendation and appointment of 2 directors for the FY21 budget.
Anybody want to do it?
I'll be glad to.
I'll be happy to.
Then I would like to make a motion for Directors Atkinson and Sewell.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Porter, seconded by Mrs. McCutcheon. All in favor?
Aye. We can vote too.
Yes, ma'am. You can vote for yourself.
All right.
Opposed? All right, Mr. Atkinson and Ms. Sewell, thank you so much for agreeing to serve in this role. It's greatly appreciated. Next on our agenda is the workshop, review of and discussion on the AllinForSLTX business campaign. Elizabeth Huff, Director of Economic Development.
Good afternoon again. We're excited to bring to you this presentation on our campaign. And at the start of the pandemic, the Office of Economic Development began laying out its business response plan to support the Sugarland economy, recognizing the economic crisis this health crisis was going to bring. The pandemic is a fluid and dynamic situation, and our business response plan has continued to evolve to meet each new challenge as it's arisen. The plan has primarily focused on the immediate economic needs of businesses over the next 6 months and creating tasks and programs that would get Sugarland businesses safely reopened and business levels, as in their number of customers and sales volumes, back to normal as quickly as possible. Today, we're going to share with you the data gathering communication efforts we have been undertaking over the past several weeks. These efforts have informed again and again our plan for the AllinForSLTX business campaign. The campaign with the Sweet Cash component is primarily a promotional and marketing effort, which we have heard from our businesses loud and clear and over again through various channels is what they need assistance with most. We want to encourage and show the Sugar Land community that they can shop and dine safely and restart our local economy again. Next slide, please. When the pandemic hit, we had a strong relationship with many of our major employers, hoteliers, and specialty retailers. And we began our outreach with direct email communication, helping them to navigate the various emergency orders and reliable sources of information. We have since grown this communication into a recipient list of over 1,000 businesses and upgraded to a branded e-newsletter. We also quickly launched a resource page on the Visit Sugar Land website. And now that resource page mostly lives on our economic development website. The webpage was promoted through our direct email communication, and based on its above average, page view times, we can conclude that users have found the information helpful. The webpage has continuously been updated as various stages of the pandemic have been updated. Finally, our city manager task force has been established to serve as a sounding board and provide outside private business perspectives. There are 11 members from a variety of business sectors in the community, and they have also weighed in on the campaign and Sweet Cash component. Now I'd like to hand it over to Cam, who's going to share more detailed information about what our data gathering efforts have told us. Next slide.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. So I'm going to talk through really briefly some of the various data gathering efforts we've undergone and what those efforts have told us about what our businesses want and need from the city in terms of support. So as you'll see on the slide there, one of the first things we recognized we needed to do was reach out directly to our businesses and hear from them what they were seeing on the ground, how the pandemic was impacting them on a day-to-day basis, how it was impacting their employees. And so we conducted a business survey, and I'll talk through those results in just a moment in that effort. Before I do that, I want to talk about two other data gathering efforts that we undertook early on in the pandemic, so that we could really understand both what our businesses were seeing and what was going on around the country and around Texas. So as you'll see on the screen, we had the virtual roundtable meetings. These are groups focused on specific industries and sectors within the city of Sugar Land. We have destination venues, our hoteliers who have been impacted by this crisis almost disproportionately, our retail entertainment venues, major employers, and property managers and landlords. These are all groups with unique perspectives on what's going on with the pandemic. So I believe we've had about 7 of these so far. We have reached out to a couple of these groups more than once. We've had about 4 to 7 participants on the call, in addition to some EcoDev staff leading those conversations. And those opportunities have given us the chance to ask broad questions of the participants. It's given them the chance to ask us questions to understand what may be coming down the pipe from the city. And most importantly, it's given the businesses an opportunity to have peer-to-peer learning from each other. There's been a really good exchange of information from how do you manage common areas in your building to how are you dealing with the reopening and the retail to go, and that was an item or an option from the governor's orders for a short while. And so it's really been a good opportunity for us to hear from our businesses and for them to hear from each other. Regarding best practices, we began at staff level to look around at other communities across Texas early on in the pandemic to understand how they were responding and what programs and actions they were putting into place to support their local businesses. We heard a lot from different communities. Round Rock was a very common community that was doing great things early on. And we decided that it was good to go ahead and reach out and try to understand what they were doing. And we looked at over 20 different grant and loan programs across Texas that had been established and were, what we found in our research is that most of those programs were extensions or reworkings of programs that were already in existence prior to COVID. Galveston reworked a Harvey recovery program to function in the post-pandemic world. And then a number of other communities were leveraging existing relationships and existing programs to support their COVID response. But what we did notice about that is few of those programs were holistic back to business approaches. They were really focused on getting money out to businesses as quickly as possible. We understood, and from the information that I'll share with you in a second from our business survey, that that's not necessarily the primary purpose that our businesses were looking for from us. And nationally, we looked out at communities that were taking that more holistic approach, that were looking at things like leveraging private dollars with public dollars. We looked to Middleburg, Virginia. They were on the national news for a gift card program. They purchased gift cards from their tourism sector across the city and then sent a gift card to every citizen or every resident household in the community. Now, they're a community of 800 houses, so that's a little more possible with them than it is in somewhere like Sugar Land. They were a good model that we looked out to. We reached out and spoke numerous times with Cincinnati, Ohio, that was doing a program in their central business district. In Northern Kentucky, which is right across the river, their Chamber of Commerce was leading a similar effort. In downtown Pittsburgh was leveraging online sales through a platform that they managed to support businesses directly. But most of those programs that we looked out to, and there were a number of others, they used variations on gift card giveaways to both promote business to the wider community and to quickly direct funds to businesses. So at this point, I'll take the next slide and I'll talk through the business survey that we released. So we rolled out this survey as part of our new email blast system on April the 17th. We had scheduled the email the night before to go out at, I believe, 9 a.m. And I recall that because I was on the Emergency Operations Center's call that started at 9 a.m. And in the other tab, while I was on this Zoom call, I had the survey responses come up. And within 30 minutes of launch, we already had 25 responses to our survey. It was a resounding success. We had over 300 about 300 responses total during the initial survey period. And as Elizabeth mentioned, we had taken efforts to expand our network from about 100 to 1,000 business contacts across Sugar Land. And so we emailed the survey link directly to about 1,000 folks, and then we asked boards, and I believe this board was even asked to reach out to their network and forward along the email so that we could reach as many businesses and partners as possible. The survey has remained open since, but we haven't been actively promoting it, and we have received a few additional responses, but the numbers that I'll go through in a minute are based on the initial set of 300 responses, which are the bulk of responses we received. But we used it as an opportunity to engage those new contacts that we had and to start to develop that relationship with the businesses we hadn't previously worked with. The respondents were predominantly small businesses with fewer than 25 employees, so about 70% were in that small business category. Next slide, please. So getting into some of the results, one of the first questions we asked was, has your business experienced an increase in business or a decline in business due to the COVID-19 pandemic? So if you'll recall from the date that was included, or when these surveys were mailed out, they were emailed out on April the 17th, and they were due on April the 21st. So this is about a month after the lockdowns and shelter-in-place orders started coming out. So we'd had a time to grapple with the effects of the pandemic. And 92% of our businesses experienced some level of business decline due to COVID-19. And that's consistent with regional trends from the weekly survey that the Greater Houston Partnership has been putting out. Their survey released for the same time period had more than 80% of businesses across the region experiencing business decline. So I think that's pretty comparable. And their category was more than 80, 60 to 80. So we're definitely in the same ballpark as the regional perspective. Next slide, please. We also asked what level of revenue decline they have experienced during the pandemic. And so almost everyone had seen a negative or had seen a drop in revenue. But almost a third of businesses saw an 80 to 100% drop in revenue over that time period. So what that's telling us is that everybody's hurting a little bit, but some folks are hurting a lot. Next slide, please. And then we also asked, because we wanted to get an impact or an understanding of how this pandemic was impacting not only the businesses themselves, but how they were impacting individuals within the city of Sugar Land. And so we saw that almost a quarter of our businesses that responded had furloughed or laid off at least 80% of their workforce. And so, not only are the businesses taking a hit, but we've got a lot of employees around Sugar Land that are hurting a lot from this pandemic. Next slide, please. So to wrap up the survey results, two of the last big questions that we asked on that were what are your biggest concerns as a business moving forward? And what are some other suggestions that you have for the city, and how can we support you through this? The concerns, again, consistent with the weekly survey that GHP was putting out at this time, overwhelmingly cash flow and revenue. Businesses just want to get cash flowing again so that they can do what they do best, which is sell products and services. Also, rent and making payroll expenses were large concerns for these businesses. When we asked the open-ended question, and we got a lot of responses on this, when we asked the open-ended question about what other suggestions do you have for the city and how can we support you, number one response was, we want to reopen, but we want to reopen safely. And that was expressed in many different variations again. But some of the things that we heard were not necessarily that personal protective equipment was an overwhelming comment in the surveys that asked about or that mentioned reopening safely. We did hear some of that, though, and we also heard that in some of our business roundtables. So we heard that businesses want to get open, they wanted to do it safely, and so the Sugar Land Legacy Foundation has stepped up to provide business care packages of personal protective equipment, PPE, to local businesses, and they've got an ongoing program that's serving that need. The second most common response was some variation of financial assistance. A lot of what we heard in those comments were we want direction or assistance or guidance on the different federal aid packages that are out there. So this was in the early days of the Paycheck Protection Program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan expansion, and we've communicated opportunities to our businesses to hear from and work with our regional SBA partners. They've been on webinars all over the place. I don't know if you're familiar with Tim Jeffcoat, but he is one of our regional contacts, and I swear if I've been on one webinar with Tim Jeffcoat, I've been on 20. But the guy has been getting the message out about how to take advantage of the federal funds that are out there. But one of the third and the bolded point under there that I want to draw your attention to is we heard a lot about promoting our local businesses. That would be essential as we work to recover, not only to get past the initial shelter in place, but as we try to get back to normal. And we heard loud and clear that our businesses don't want a handout. They want the ability and assistance in being able to do what it is that they do well, which is, as mentioned earlier, is sell goods and services. But they wanted our help in letting the wider community that Sugar Land is back and open for business. And so with that, our key takeaway from the data that we gathered, not only in the survey, but in what we heard in the business roundtables, and what we even heard echoed, as Elizabeth mentioned, in our task force, our business task force, is that our businesses want our help in promoting themselves and the local businesses, and they want to be able to get cash flow flowing again. So with that, I'll turn it over to Devin, who's going to talk through our AllinForSLTX campaign. Next slide, please.
Sorry about that. I was still muted. Thank you, Cam. Yes, I'm going to kind of walk us through our AllinForSLTX business campaign. This is an overarching umbrella for what it is that we're looking to do to help promote our businesses and help generate cash flow, those things that we've heard loud and clear from our business community. So our AllinForSLTX business campaign, like I said, is this overarching umbrella of a marketing campaign. There are a couple of components to it. And so I'm going to be walking through the first part of it and then handing it over to Teresa. So the main parts of it is our Sweet Cash, which is a gift card activation type program. And I'm going to be going into each of those different sections of what that means for the program and the benefits of doing this. And then the second part of it is additional promotional support through our Sweet Summer Saturdays and other activations that Teresa is going to touch on in a moment. Next slide, please. So first, let's focus on our Sweet Cash program. And so we've got different steps along the way that I'm going to show this this graph here just to present it to you of how this piece of it will work in along under this entire umbrella of AllinForSLTX. Next slide, please. So the concept that we have been developing is a way of a gift card activation program. So we would promote customers to purchase gift cards from Sugar Land businesses from a minimum of $40 up to $200. And in return for purchasing that gift card, they will receive a matching gift card for approximately 50% of the value from a local business that's been negatively impacted by the COVID-19. Then the second part of that 50% matching gift card will then be given to a frontline worker or essential business or other type of frontline organization like a hospital that has assisted in this pandemic effort. And this is an important element of our program, of our Sweet Cash program. So unlike some other programs that we have looked into, we're really trying to not only generate some cash flow and some initial economic activity in our local economy, but also give back, promote some goodwill within the Sugar Land community of what everybody has endured during this time, and really give a big thank you to those that have been on the front lines of this pandemic. So the initial purchaser has the option also to nominate a worker or an organization to be the recipient of that frontline worker matching gift card. Some of the benefits of this program is obviously the promotion of businesses, a direct infusion or cash flow into that business. And then, as I said, this pay it forward development of goodwill in Sugar Land. And then finally, this is the ability for us to leverage private dollars to support local businesses. So trying to make that first investment with our public dollars double what the total impact is to the community. Next slide, please. So I want to walk through kind of a little bit of a story to show you how this program would work. So first would be the SL4B would purchase $2,000 of gift cards from Jeff's Pizzeria and Boutique Nails, both eligible businesses that have applied to the Sweet Cash program and have met the eligibility criteria. They have signed a performance agreement with the SL4B, and therefore we have purchased $2,000 worth of gift cards in $20 increments from these two businesses. Maria, a Sugar Land resident of 20 years, she goes out, she hears about the Sweet Cash program, and she buys an $80 gift card to Jupiter Pizza and Waffle Company, and she submits proof to the Sweet Cash program via our online form. As a note, Jupiter isn't a participating business in Sweet Cash in that SL4B purchased gift cards from them, but Maria purchased a gift card from them, and that makes it an eligible matching piece to the Sweet Cash program. So with Maria's $80 investment in a gift card, that is now this $80 private investment that has occurred in our economy. As a result of Maria's $80 gift card, she is going to receive a $40 gift card to Boutique Nails from the Sweet Cash program in the mail. And then Gus, a nurse at Houston Methodist, who has been working many days dealing with the COVID pandemic, is going to receive a $40 gift card to Jeff's Pizzeria, also from the Sweet Cash program. So those two gift cards together equaling $80 in SL4B investment in the Sweet Cash program. So together, we have now interjected $160 into our local economy, into our local businesses, supporting their generating their cash flow and getting customers to come into their business again in a safe manner. Next slide, please. So how would it work for a participating business? We are going to require that a business submit an application to participate in the Sweet Cash program. If selected, based off of eligibility requirements, and it'll be based off of first come, first serve applications. The SL4B will purchase $20 gift cards in $20 increments. We have not determined what the total amount purchased from each individual would be. We are going to base that on the number of eligible businesses applications that we receive in order to try to evenly distribute what that total impact would be to individual businesses. And then the participating business would be required to sign a performance agreement per our SL4B statute. So some of the eligibility requirements for a business applying to the Sweet Cash program is that they must be located in Sugar Land and have paid local taxes to the city in 2019. They must have fewer than 50 employees, and they must self-certify that they have been forced to close or quantify the revenue loss that they have suffered due to COVID-19. And then finally, the business must fall into one of these categories: hotel, retail, food and beverage, or service-oriented business. Next slide, please. So here's a tentative timeline for round one. We say round one because we have looked at other programs in other parts of the country, and they have been so successful that they have then had to scramble to find more funding for them to do a round two. So we want to plan in advance that this will be successful and that we would have a round one and a round two. It would also give us the opportunity to make any changes, either lessons learned or perhaps there's certain sectors, business sectors that we would want to focus on in a round two type scenario. So first, we're having our SL4B workshop today. Then we have scheduled a special meeting on May 27th to consider approval of this. We would have a business application period that would be launched very shortly after if approval was granted. And then selection of those eligible businesses, which I described would be based off of the eligibility criteria that we laid out, as well as sort of first come, first serve. And then performance agreement and purchase of gift cards would occur. And we would start sort of this pre-media advertising of the program between June 18th and June 19th, so people know that it is coming, so that we could then launch Sweet Cash on June 20th, which is the first day of summer. And then finally, from June 19th to July 17th, distribute the Sweet Cash matching gift cards to the participating individuals as well as the frontline workers. Next slide, please. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Teresa, who's going to go into sort of the second piece of our All In for SLTX business campaign, which is some of the other marketing and promotions that will go hand in hand with our Sweet Cash activation. Teresa?
Thank you, Devin. So as she just mentioned, in addition to the Sweet Cash component, the All In for SLTX campaign will comprise of other activations, which is what we're calling Sweet Summer Saturdays. One of our partners with the campaign is DCI, who is being represented right now by Kat Saunders. She's a Senior Vice President of Client Strategies, and she's in this meeting as well. So we'd be happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. So, as Cam mentioned earlier, our businesses yearn for promotional support. This is what the survey showed, and this is what we are consistently hearing as we interact with them. With Sweet Summer Saturdays, we'd like to create opportunities to invigorate our businesses and the community by generating buzzworthy activations. These activations would occur Saturdays in June and July. We would use them to promote our businesses, perhaps highlight the Sweet Cash Pay It Forward component or recipient. They could be executed either digitally or in person while practicing social distancing, of course. And overall, they are intended to communicate that Sugar Land is safe and clean to explore, shop, dine, come and visit us. As we work towards, next slide, please. One more slide. Got it. As we work towards a safe reopening statewide, here are some examples of what the Sweet Summer Saturdays could look like. So we would have Sweet Saturday shopping in Sugar Land. We would leverage the Sweet Cash program to encourage shopping with Sugar Land retailers and restaurants. It could be a citywide push for curbside options, sidewalk sales, or online shopping. We would encourage retailers to have special promotions as part of the All In for SLTX campaign. And then learn from locals was another idea. Here we would have classes taught by local businesses, including something like Pino's Palette, painting, doing an online or a virtual or in-person painting lesson. We could consider the painting to be Sugar Land themed, or make your own floral arrangements with House of Blooms. Another idea is the Saturday visits from what we're calling the Sugar Land Ferry. So we would designate perhaps 2 Saturdays for a visit from the Sugar Land Ferry. There'd be a local nomination for a local hero for a visit from the ferry. We could distribute this to the frontline workers, or we could have winners of visits, which the winners could also receive Sugar Land swag bag with treats and products from our local vendors. And another idea is the All In for SLTX field day at destination venues. This, of course, would be play socially distanced games like balloon toss, hula hoop contest, Simon Says, tug of wars against families, where we would bring in local vendors or food trucks for food and drink activations as well. The goal for any of these, once again, would be to create promotional opportunities and start creating that buzz that Sugar Land is reopening for business, of course, safely. Next slide, please. Additional campaign activations could include like an oversized, customized ribbon cutting, where we would have first responders and city officials in front of City Hall, marking Sugar Land's reopening efforts, and they would be used to generate media buzz. We could also do movie nights at destination venues, that being Crown Castle Park, or maybe a large parking lot of some of our large destination venues like Smart Financial and Constellation Field. We could hold these over the months of June and July, run them as part of the Sweet Summer Saturdays component, where we would identify 46 restaurants to offer to-go boxes for each movie night. A unique opportunity with this activation is the ability to incorporate video into the beginning or the ending of the movie that highlights the All In for SLTX campaign, whether that be media shots, reopening video, frontline workers, or even perhaps a 15-second self-recorded commercial from some of our businesses. Of course, to keep everyone safe, we would sanction off social distance areas, as you can see here, which is some of the things that New York is doing right now. Next slide, please. For any and all activations that we would do under the All In for SLTX campaign, we are thinking safety first, which is why we would like to start our Sweet Summer Saturday series off with virtual events in early June and lead up to in-person events as the recovery progresses. We would require advanced sign up for in-person events to limit the capacity, and we could do these in heat waves to allow for greater participation throughout the event. We could alternate restaurants and food and beverage choices so that multiple vendors have opportunities to participate. All events, of course, would incorporate the All In for SLTX branding and messaging. Participants would be encouraged to tag or like our city pages or social media channels to showcase support once again for the campaign, as well as provide content and storytelling for future utilization. All of this we would mark off social distancing square with weather-resistant paint on our flags as we deem appropriate. And these are just some of the ideas that we are sure more opportunities will blossom as we work towards recovery. So with that, I would like to push it back over to Devin to review the budget.
Thank you, Teresa. So what we're looking at for our All In for SLTX business campaign is a total of $250,000. Approximately $200,000 of that would be for gift card purchases, printing, postage, other of those types of expenses associated with the Sweet Cash program. And then $50,000 being towards the Sweet Summer Saturdays, events, activations, marketing, and promotions that we determine is appropriate during the time period that we're in. So for a total of $250,000, based on our current budget, we can actually accommodate this expenditure within our existing budget, total budget amount. So we don't need to request any additional funds from our fund balance or anything like that. But this is what we're looking at. And again, the $200,000 for the gift card is considering a round 1 and round 2 component of it. Next slide, please. So next steps. We are here having our workshop today on May 20th. A special meeting is being scheduled for May 27th to consider approval of the All In for SLTX campaign, including Sweet Cash. And then following that, we would prepare and finalize our program details, application, webpage, online forms. A lot of that work has already started, but we would go into final program details if this was to be approved by the board. Next slide, please. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions. You know, this has been a labor of love for us in the Economic Development Department, and it's been kind of this campaign has been a fraction of the many things that we have been working on to support our businesses during this time. But we're really excited about this opportunity, and that this really has come out of what the businesses are telling us that they need and how we best can support them. So with that, I think I'll just open it up to any questions there might be.
Question? Sharon, you're muted.
I'll ask the question. So the $250,000 from the budget is expected to really be leveraged for much greater economic activity. Do you have any idea what multiples of that activity to expect?
I can give you an idea of what happened in downtown Cincinnati. When we had last spoke to them last week, they have not yet finished their round 2. So they have not exhausted all their funds for round 2 yet. So they still had more to go. I believe they had put in about $320,000, and impact to the local economy far exceeded the 600,000. So they hadn't yet put out all of their 320,000. They still had a little bit left, but they had doubled their investment into the local economy based off of their program.
Okay, good, thank you.
So you would start off with buying like $100,000 of gift cards, less the printing and mailing costs, and see how that goes as far as round one, and then save the second half for round two then?
Correct.
And so it sounds like that people would need to be required to buy, since you're going to be buying gift cards in $20 increments, it means that people would need to buy the sweet cash cards, I guess, in $40 increments then. So they have to go like 40, 80, 120, 160, or 200.
Correct. We have set categories. So if they fell into a range of $40 to $80, then, or $40 to $79.99, they would get a $20 gift card.
Oh, okay, I see.
The gift card that was between $80 and $119.99, they would receive two $20 gift cards, just to make the $20 increments process of the program a little bit more straightforward.
Okay, now do they get the gift card for the frontline worker, or do y'all keep that and distribute it yourselves to the frontline worker?
We would be distributing it to the frontline worker. And like I said, in the application where they would submit the receipt, they do have the ability to nominate somebody. If they knew a frontline worker specifically, they could nominate an individual, and we will be tracking all of that. But we would handle the distribution to the frontline worker.
Good. And what happens if someone's gift card gets lost in the mail?
So
Some minor details, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully that won't occur, but we will have to be putting certain caveats around the program, certain things that are going to be outside of our control. So we will do our best for those things not to occur, but we won't be able to fix probably every single possible, but we're going to be looking into all of those different things and sort of setting up scenarios for them.
Will someone have the opportunity to, for say the $20 one that someone gets for themselves, will they have the chance to pick which distressed business they get, or is that something that you all select?
We're not going to be having them say specifically that they want a gift card to this type of business. So we will just be randomly distributing them based off of the dollar value, not the specific business, just because we want to be able to make sure that we across the board, if we have 25 businesses or 50 businesses that are eligible businesses, that they all get equal gift card purchases and benefit from the program.
Good, thank you.
Are there other questions? Mr. Kamali?
Yeah, Devin, can you go back to the slide which shows the different examples? I think someone bought an $80 gift card and she didn't buy it from the right merchant. I want to go through that one more time if you don't mind.
I believe for CitySec, it's slide 13, or at least on our presentation. It's the one that, yes, that one, thank you.
Perfect. So Sugarland buys $2,000 worth of gift cards to these two. It could be 25, right? It could be 25 folks
Correct.
Participate.
Correct.
And that would be the 100. Let's call it a little bit less than $100,000 because of the printing and mailing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I got confused. Maria bought it from Jupiter Pizza, which is not a participant. Walk me through, Maria, one more time.
So the reason we're not requiring people to buy a gift card from the 50 participating businesses. We are buying the gift cards from the 50 participating businesses. And then somebody who wants to participate in the Sweet Cash program can buy a gift card from any local Sugarland business. So we're not just benefiting the 50 businesses that have applied to our program, but we're benefiting all of the businesses in Sugarland. And the idea being that some businesses are more popular than others. And so they might not need the cash flow assistance or, they maybe had a very established customer base before this whole thing happened. And a lot of those people are coming back. So we want to leverage that to be able to assist some of the other maybe newer or struggling businesses in Sugarland to benefit from the program.
So as a resident, Maria just bought it from any business. It's not part of the ones that registered. She'll get that $40. How does Maria know about this program, and how does she claim her portion of it?
So I think I'll let Teresa answer that question of how we'd go about promoting it.
Absolutely, and I'll have Kat kind of join me in on this conversation as well. So essentially, we're going to be doing a marketing push in order to promote the All In for SLTX, with Sweet Cash being one of the kickoff programs that we're going to be focusing on. We are looking at doing press releases, e-blast, partnering with other city established channels like Facebook, social media. We're creating a landing page specifically for this program, for the Sweet Cash program as well. Kat, is there anything else you would like to add?
I just would add that through our experience at our agency, we're finding that there's a real appetite, particularly in the states that have reopened, either partially or halfway, that there's an appetite to give back, but there's also an appetite to you return to some sense of normalcy. And I think that what we've seen with these campaigns that are working like this, and we also work with Cincinnati, so it was one of the ways we were able to connect the dots behind the scenes, is that it's leveraging assets that the public sector organization has access to in order to stimulate and act as a catalyst for the community. So leveraging either your open green space, leveraging some of your budget to stimulate local shopping, finding ways to kind of act as the stimulant in this type of program. So I do believe there's an appetite for that, and what we will do is leverage those social channels quite a bit in order to get local traction, but also work with the larger Houston regional media market to promote this, and hopefully have some wonderful broadcast opportunities and other content opportunities that can be shared not only the day of, but in future content materials. And as you look at just really talking about how the city is resilient and is willing to commit and be innovative. We work with a lot of people, and we are finding that certain clients are completely in a paralysis mode in a crisis, and they are really struggling to unify their voices or to work with their mayor's office. I think the difference that I've seen in Sugar Land through my work over the past couple of weeks with the team is that those hurdles aren't there. Those hurdles have been cleared. The track is open. The team's working together, trying to find a way to collaborate and utilize existing resources in a more innovative way to stimulate the local economy. So it's been really great to watch, just seeing this at a national level and seeing how the team at the city has really been focused around this and been very intentional and strategic about it as well.
Excellent, thank you. Just a follow-up question here. If we buy gift cards from Jeff's Pizzeria and Boutique Nails, obviously they have been hurting because of COVID and a lot of other businesses. What happens if they go out of business during this time frame and we bought gift cards from them?
So we are going to be, requesting some information in our applications, but there is some level of risk that we potentially could be taking on of buying gift cards if they do, go out of business. But we're hoping to do some of that screening through the application process.
Okay. Last question, and I'll be quiet. This is really good. I really appreciate you all doing this. I'm liking what I see here. The limit of 25 employees to be eligible. I think Cam said earlier that a lot of the respondents said that there were less than 50 employees that worked for these small businesses. Our government has set it up for PPP and other things at 500. Is 25 too small of a number of employees? How are other cities doing that? I guess it could be the question, Kat. Are other cities doing 25 or 50? I just wanted to see a little bit broader range of employers getting this opportunity to participate.
So our criteria is 50 or fewer employees is the criteria for the eligible businesses. But I believe we had a statistic of most respondents from our survey, approximately 70% were small businesses with fewer than 25 employees. So about 70% of our survey responses had 25 or fewer employees. But we are looking at, for our eligibility criteria for businesses applying to Sweet Cash, that they have 50 or fewer employees.
Perfect. So Marriott won't be able to apply for this because they're a hotel. They obviously have more than 50 employees. I don't want Marriott to be successful here. I want the Jupiter Pizza around the corner or the burger place around the corner to be successful here.
I had one question. It's just a validation. You don't have to put the example up there, but in the case of Maria buying a gift card, she has to buy a gift card from a business based in Sugar Land, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That needs to just be made clear because there may be people that will go buy them from anywhere and then want to submit. So just make it clear.
Right, and that's part of the requirement for them submitting the receipt, that it must show the business's address on that receipt.
And the good thing about it as well is that people don't have to be Sugar Land residents to purchase the gift cards. So that, because we've got lots of employees that commute into the community and out, so it doesn't limit it on if you have to be a resident, but you do have to purchase from a Sugar Land business.
So if I may, a follow-up question to Amy. Is it City of Sugar Land or including ETJ businesses?
Right now, we had not considered ETJ. It was just City of Sugar Land.
Okay.
Because these are SL4B dollars.
Are there other questions from our directors?
Yes, I have a couple of questions, please.
Mr. Porter?
Thank you. This buy the gift card and the business goes out, or the establishment goes out of business, who bears the risk? Do we reimburse them, the person, the resident that bought the card, or do they take the risk?
That is, Devin, may I step in on that?
No, go ahead, Cam.
Yeah, so on the application, we have an area, the application for participating purchasers of the gift cards to certify a couple of different things as part of their request to be included in the program. And one of the items that we have in that is an assumption of some level of risk. And I think that if the business goes out of business, I think that's a level of risk that the purchaser would have to bear as part of their receiving gift cards. Now, they will be receiving gift cards in $20 increments. So it's possible if they purchase a $200 gift card from a business in Sugar Land, that they receive up to 5 gift cards from different businesses around the city in that $20 increment. So we are sort of diversifying their receipt of gift cards and really minimizing the amount of risk that they would be undertaking. But I would not envision us reimbursing them for their initial gift card purchase, because at the end of the day, they do still have that gift card that they initially purchased to participate in the program. We would make it clear that it's their risk, and that any disputes on the viability of the gift card is between them and the business that the gift card is for. And one of the components of the performance agreement that we will have is a request to a requirement that the business provide receipts for the gift cards that they sell, so that we can then pass that along to the recipient.
Okay, so as part of our qualification for getting in the program from a small business is some to the best of our ability, given what's available, our judgment as to whether they're going to make it or not.
Are not going to be doing extensive financial review of the business, but prior to buying a gift card. I think we would argue that a lot of us take on that risk with whatever gift card you go out and buy as a consumer every day. But we will be looking to make sure that it is not a startup, that they have been an operating business in, from 2019, and it's not that they had just opened the business.
Okay. I have a follow-up to one of Amy's questions. It's got to be a Sugarland business, but I think further it has to be a Sugarland only business, right? So they can't have another store in Richmond or Missouri City so that the first responder can go there and give the money.
Are you talking about the gift card that the resident or tourist or whatever initially purchases, or one that we purchase and is the matching?
Wherever they can either purchase it or spend it, it has to be with a business that only does business in Sugarland.
So the reason why we haven't put that requirement of that you have to purchase a gift card from a business that only exists in Sugarland is because we're trying to leverage the benefit of using people purchasing gift cards to benefit other businesses that have applied to this program and that really are struggling and need our help. So if they want to purchase a gift card, if somebody wants to purchase a gift card from Academy because that's where they like to shop and they purchased it from the Sugarland store, they purchased it at the Sugarland branch, and therefore that is revenue that went into that Sugarland location. Now we wouldn't be considering Academy as a matching gift card, but we're leveraging these successful established businesses to support some of our other local businesses that have been struggling.
And to add to that,
I wouldn't be interested. I would not be interested in giving a gift card to a first responder that's going to go spend it in Richmond or Rosenberg. I mean, the whole point here is to hold up Sugarland businesses.
That business, though, receives the money because they were the initial purchaser of the gift card. We purchased the gift card from the Sugarland business. We didn't from the Missouri City. Now, sales tax, but.
Mr. Kamali, did you have a question?
Yeah, Steve, said it another way, you can buy it from Academy, which is a national company, but the companies with the 50 employees or less are Sugarland businesses that they will get a $20 or $40 gift card to go spend more dollars. Devin, are there examples of companies that we would buy gift cards from, to what Mr. Porter is saying, that could have a restaurant here in Sugarland and possibly have one in Richmond? I think that's what Mr. Porter is trying to say here.
I can't think of a specific, I think off the top of my head, I don't know if I would be able to spit out a business's name. I'm trying to think of some local ones that would have been located here in Sugarland and maybe have also branched out to other locations.
Warehouse is one in Town Square.
There we go.
There's very few that would be.
Very few, but you're going to end up with, I think there is some cross between Sugarland and Missouri City as well, although I can't call it to mind. So one question, and it just maybe I didn't quite follow, but if you're going to go to a business wants to be involved and they're a small business, let's just pick one, Brook Street Barbecue, and they want to be in the program, but they don't have a branded gift card program. So are they out?
So we have had discussions about this as well, of how do we handle businesses that need assistance but don't participate or don't have a gift card. So some of the discussion has been maybe those are some businesses that we could assist in round 2, not in this initial round 1 that we're trying to launch, but it might be something that we'd be able to work with them to establish some type of gift card so they could benefit from the round 2 piece of the program.
I mean, how much does it cost to be can we help them start a branded gift card program? I don't know how much that would cost.
So, Teresa, if you want to take this one, but it costs more than you think to have a branded gift card.
Everything costs more than I think.
We've learned a lot through this process.
But these
Right.
things, small businesses, can we not do some kind of paper gift cards? I know Fernando's had paper gift cards that I've utilized in the past.
Or electronic.
We are considering all of those options right now as we're kind of researching the gift card channels that exist out in the market right at this point, which is one of the reasons we're trying to push those to round 2, is to garner just a little bit more time right now. So staff has the opportunity to see how round one is fully activated, what challenging and struggles we face there, to be able to actually incorporate those other businesses that don't necessarily have a hard gift card at hand, which is why we're pushing it to round 2.
You know, Teresa, I respect go slow and learn while we go. But I think the really small businesses may not be around if we go too slow. That would be my concern.
And we note that, sir. And so we're open to the electronic gift cards. We're opening to the paper gift cards. We're open to the hard plastic gift cards. It's going to be a challenge for those entities that don't have a gift card program system activated already.
Are there other questions? Mr. Atkinson?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what timeline would you expect to have between round 1 and round 2 so that you could evaluate the money invested in round 1, its efficiency, as Steve was talking about, the relevant risks associated with it, and also, you know, the opportunity to see where we are as a society with the pandemic, you know, and what its recovery curve is. That could tell us a lot about round 2, whether more or less would be invested as well as other adjustments. But I was curious about that timeline. I hear your point about not wanting to drag it out too long because recovery economics are needed. But I believe from what I read, this is going to be a long recovery. And so the more effective this program can be, would be justifiable for part of the economic delay in making sure that it's effective. I don't know if that was a question or just a commentary, but
Yeah,
the question is the timeline between round 1 and round 2.
So we have not identified the timeline between the 2 rounds, and we're just going to see how round 1 goes and continue to work through this as we have. This has been a very fluid situation, and we've changed our perception and our tactics have changed daily. I think at the end of the day, there is going to be a little bit of risk, and we are trying to do what we can to get some cash infusion into the community and support them however we can. And so that's our first steps, and we really appreciate all of the feedback and the questions, and we'll continue to take this into consideration. And we have routed this through our city managers task force as well, and they had very similar questions and concerns, and I've walked through this with them as well.
I think those are good points, Elizabeth, and to summarize this, I think it's a great effort. It's a great idea. I think you've done some very good homework and talking with other communities who have done this. And with regards to the risks, I'm just like Steve, I'm risk averse, but you're going to have to take the risk in order to take a program like this public and try to make it work. And then if you have the opportunity to learn from the risks and make adjustments, that's fine. I'm not as concerned about the leakage into Missouri City or into Richmond, as those examples were given, as the effectiveness of the broad percentage of people here in Sugar Land that will be impacted favorably. It's a great idea, and it's worth moving into and developing further, I believe.
Well, we've had a very robust discussion.
A good question I wanted to comment. Sharon?
Yes.
And will you be back with SL4B after phase 1 and before phase 2 begins, or will you all just take the ball and run the whole time with it?
We can certainly bring it back and bring you an update.
Okay, and could you give a little more information about which, I guess a little more about the 11 people who are on the task force, what businesses they're with, or types of businesses?
So it is a varying degree of businesses. We have some restaurateurs, we have destination venues, we've got someone from the hoteliers. We also have some retailers that, like one of them is a fitness studio, another one is a, why am I drawing a blank? Like retail experience, that she owns a quilting shop. And so we have a varying degree of leadership, and it's been, it's 11 people that we've got on there.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Well, thank you, Elizabeth, Devin, Cam, Teresa, and Kat, for your very thorough presentation. And moving on along, next on our agenda is the review of and discussion on fiscal year 2020, second quarter report. Devin Rodriguez, Assistant Director of Economic Development. Devin.
Thank you. So since we're holding this meeting via Zoom, it's a little bit different than normally when we hand out the quarterly reports so you all can have it in your hand. We email it out earlier today, so hopefully you received that email. But I wanted to we've taken some of the pages from the report so that we can just touch on a few items. So I will kind of just go through some of the highlights. So next slide, please. So this might be a little bit hard to see now that I see it here on the screen. But in general, just wanted to show that our office vacancy is performing or expected to perform. It's still around that 10-11%, so we'll kind of touch on that. Industrial vacancy, retail vacancy is all green and performing at great levels. Hotel market is yellow, performing or expected to perform below a little bit of typical levels, and we expect for that to decline further due to the COVID pandemic. So next slide. Just a little bit on where we are with our revenues. So total revenues are 91% of budget and higher than the prior year due to our refunding bond proceeds. So you will see the numbers are much higher for FY20 year-to-date actuals versus the FY19 year-to-date actuals. And it's because of that bond refunding that occurred. And then total expenditures of the 30.5 are 82% of budget, again, higher due to the debt service bond refunding that we did this year. Next slide, please. So current month at a glance for our sales tax revenue. The total sales tax collections are at 4.17 million for March, with reoccurring sales tax collections of 3.8 million. Just a reminder, we do only budget on our reoccurring sales tax. So and then we kind of get that extra one-time payments as extra buffer that we have there in our budget. The reoccurring sales tax is higher than the budget of 3.79 by 0.04 million. Next slide, please. And then this is just some quick sales tax revenue comparisons of where we are versus all Texas cities, the top 20 Texas cities, and Fort Bend County major cities. So our collections for the month saw an increase of 2.5, and year to date for Fort Bend was 3.9 compared to the prior year. Next slide, please. So a little about our office market. Our vacancy rate is at 11.3%. So it has kind of been hovering really between like high 10 to a little bit into 11%. We are having some movement in the sense of we at one time only had one existing office building that could accommodate a large user of 50,000 square feet. But now we have 3 existing office buildings. So for us, that's exciting because we have the opportunity of real estate to market out to potential businesses looking to relocate. And even with the pandemic, we have still seen some activity of businesses that are looking for opportunities to move or to expand. Next slide, please. Their industrial market vacancy rate still low at 3.4. It actually increased, I think, from around the 2 range, but still a very low vacancy rate. Our industrial market is very strong, and everybody is still looking for a lot of space in our business park. And then for JDA, which is Johnson Development Associates out of South Carolina, we've talked a lot about them. They built some industrial spec buildings, and those have been completed in this quarter. And they've really had, of course, a high level of interest due to the low vacancy rate. And building 1 is already 100% leased. That's not reflected in the 3.4% vacancy rate. So we do expect that to drop next quarter. Next slide, please. And then for our retail market, we have about 7% vacancy rate. And it's really remained unchanged from last quarter, but we obviously expect some major changes in that in our next quarterly report. Next slide, please. And then just a little overview on tourism and hotel occupancy from the second quarter 2019 versus second quarter 2020. There has been some decrease in that. And this does cover January, February, and March. So towards the end of February and March, the hotels were already seeing the impact of people no longer traveling, people canceling their trips and those types of things. So that is reflected in these numbers. Next slide. So finally, marketing. We've at our last 4B meeting, had discussed a DCI contract for marketing. And now with COVID, we have sort of paused that original 12-month contract with DCI that we had originally presented. And we have moved forward with a smaller limited contract aimed at really navigating the changes that are occurring with the COVID-19 pandemic and what our messages should be throughout this recovery. We're kind of getting to the recovery part, but even during the really heat of the pandemic where everybody was on shelters in place. So DCI is on a limited contract with us to sort of navigate this time. Previously, we talked about print advertisements. We've been limiting them in order to get our integrated marketing approach really underway. And so since that has been paused, DCI has been giving us some advice on some limited print advertisements that we are going to do, which are just our regular ones in the Go Big in Texas Economic Development Guide, the types of ads that are done every year on a state and regional level. And then finally, just business recruitment. We did conduct an in-person pitch for a recruitment project in February. And then since then, all other planned trips and events have been canceled due to the COVID-19. So with that, I will mention that our website has been launched. So this website performance is prior to the launch, but I bet Elizabeth's going to be talking about that in the director's report. So I don't want to say too much. So I believe that's my last slide. If there's any questions.
Questions from any of the directors? No questions? Devin, thank you so much for your presentation. Next on our agenda is the director's report, marketing, promotions and events, strategic and capital projects, business recruitment and retention efforts. Elizabeth Huff, Director of Economic Development.
All right, I will try to keep this brief. As Devin mentioned, I was going to tell you about how excited we are to launch our new economic development website. It is sugarlandecodev.com. So please go and check it out. And also follow us on social media. If you need to know what social media platforms we're on, we are happy to send you links so that you can start following us and sharing all of the great news that we've got going on. But a lot of hard work went into this by Devin and Whitney and several other people on the team. So just want to congratulate them and thank them for their hard work. It came out great. And then lastly, wanted to tell you about joint CIP. So we were about to launch our internal committee meeting whenever COVID hit and the shelter in place orders were issued. And so we have had to redirect all of our staff to the COVID response plan. And so we did have a total of 18 applications. Some of them were duplicates, but we have since paused until we have a better understanding of what the financial impact of the COVID-19 crisis is going to be for the community, not to our budgets. And we will be bringing that back into the Economic Development Committee in June, July timeframe after we have a better idea of what the ongoing impacts of COVID is going to be. So stay tuned for that. And then wanted to also kind of let y'all know that while there's a lot of doom and gloom in the news about the office and retail markets and the changes that are coming due to the COVID crisis, we are still seeing a significant amount of industrial activity and getting a lot of RFPs. So we are still actively trying to work on business recruitment efforts as we go through this and still respond to our business community. And that's all I've got. So hope you all stay safe and healthy, and it's good to see you, even if it's just virtually. And we'll talk to y'all soon.
And this concludes our agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Stay safe, and we will return again.
Next week.
Hey, yeah, see you then.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.